of certain typefaces and how to select alternatives that are well-made and functional and just as good as the ones that we're used to. So, we'll start there.
Yeah. So, we're going to have a lot of time for Q&A at the end. So we're gonna hopefully address everything that you guys want to know up here. And my job starting out is just to sort of get everybody else up to speed. So if you're somebody who works with text on the web, maybe a blogger, maybe you're a developer, you might not have an in-depth understanding of typography. So my job is to get up here and to just sort of help get you up to speed, so the other things that we say sort of make a little bit more sense to you. And is this working? There we go. It's working. So my job is to sort of get this foundational stuff. And really what we want to do is we want to address like how to do things, but also the why to do things. So we'll say like what are the better decisions, but we'll also try to explain why those are the better decisions. And my job is in 5 minutes to teach you everything that you ever need to know about typography. That's a complete lie. That's impossible. I can't do it. But I'm gonna try my best to try to hit the major notes. So the main thing is that type, your understanding of it changes fundamentally when you start thinking of it like furniture. Typography is more akin to like arranging furniture and interior decorating than like painting a picture to me, because of the needs of it. People need to like operate and live in this room, and you know there's like expressive things, there's things about tone, like who's it for, and does the arrangement of everything make sense, and you know just sort of is there room to get around, is this something comfortable for people to be in relationship with. So to sort of extend this furniture analogy a little bit too far, we want to make sure that the tone of the furniture that we use it feels appropriate to sort of like the words that we're using this type, to. So you can make good decisions, you can make bad decisions. So for this room, like this right here is a bad decision, right? Cherry from Pee-wee is a bad decision. Anybody see Pee-wee yesterday or earlier today? It was like 12:30, right? Okay. Was it good? Okay, awesome. And yeah, okay, good. I missed it. I feel bad now. So like for this room, cherry is like an awful choice, but you know, this room, similarly, this is a really bad choice as well. You know, so this furniture analogy kind of goes with, does it make sense in the room? Like, does your typeface choice make sense in relation to the content? Because you don't want to put, you know, mid-century modern furniture in a playhouse, but you also don't want to put a chair with eyeballs in a really classy house. The other thing is that the arrangement of these sorts of things and just having a certain amount of contrast, like is there enough room to get around? Are things different sizes, or are you trying to like put a really giant sofa in a very tiny room? Or are you just like putting a bunch of sofas in a room and hoping that that works out okay? So, you know, you want contrast in size, you want contrast in how the typefaces look, and you also want to make sure it fits the content. So I come up with 4 good rules for good type. The first is choose a good typeface. The second is don't use too many. The third is have a clear hierarchy. And then the fourth is the most important one. If in doubt, read it. So I'll go through these point by point. Number 1, choose a good typeface. And what I mean by good is I mean that it's like high quality, and we're going to address that. And it's proper for the content, and I'm going to touch on this. So it's proper for the format, meaning like is it on the web, or is it on the device like an iPhone or an iPad, or a Kindle or anything like that. And is it appropriate to the reader too? So I did a couple experiments. So this is the New York Times Best Comic Fair. So this is like the really classy room with cherry inside of it. And similarly, everybody gets why this doesn't work, right? Similarly, the website for the Today Show redesigned a couple weeks ago, I think, something like that. And they're using Museo Sans, which is the main text that you see right there. The thing about Charlie Sheen right there. And I did something, so I took that, and instead of going all willy-nilly with it like I did with the Times, I changed it to Garamond to see how that would look. And similarly, like this is the example of having the really nice chair in the playhouse. You know, you want to make sure that the tone and your choices for this, because as we have more choices, we need to make sure that they line up appropriately with the content. So how do we sort of dictate the tone of a typeface? One of the things that I tell my students to do is you typeset the word party. And then you look at it and you say, what kind of party is this going to be? Like, is it like going to be like a fun, crazy party with like girls and glitter and that sort of thing? Or is it going to be like a very dignified party where you drink scotch and smoke cigars, right? And both of those, neither one is better than the other. I have my preference. But, you know, like, certain things fit certain content with your typefaces. So establishing the tone of that typeface, I think, is really important. So I've also got an uppercase M and a lowercase g right there. So if you're just doing a quick sniff test, those two letters pack a lot of the DNA of the typeface inside of it. The other thing that you can do is you can use the web. So one of the best sites, I think, is by Jason and friends, and it's called Typedia. And the best part about it is, if you can't like suss out the character of a typeface just by looking at it, you can just look at the write-up that the Type Foundry made about the typeface. So for this one, you can see that Scholar is a text serif that's designed for scholarly and multilingual publications. So it's low contrast, it's robust, blah, 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 blah. And by reading that, hopefully you can make an assumption about whether it fits what you're doing or not. And when you look at these letters, I'm going to go back. When you look at these letters, it's sort of like a study in small changes, right? There's small refinements and small edits and small differences between most of these typefaces. But the important thing is that you have lots of letters on a page. So everything ripples out. So one small change gets repeated thousands of times on a web page. Second is, don't use too many typefaces. It's a juggling act. It literally is. The more balls you have to juggle, the harder it gets. So if you're coming into this fresh, try just using one. Try limiting the number of decisions that you have to make. So I gathered up a few examples. So this is a website called The Working Library by Mandy Brown, and it uses one typeface. It uses Chopper Out, and it uses it incredibly effectively. Here's an example with two. This is a website that I did earlier this year for Microsoft, and it's called Box World Fair. And this has two different typefaces. It's Hellenic Wide and it's Proxima Nova. And then the weird thing is, on the web I had to fight really hard to find a website that had three different typefaces. It was really difficult to find an example that had three that used it effectively. So this is a Book Apart website that has three different typefaces. The other thing is that we want to make sure when we choose typefaces, we sort of use it in the right order. So certain typefaces are optimized for body text, meaning the main text, and other typefaces are optimized for display type that's bigger. Certain typefaces work bigger, and they break when they get smaller. So you can see that Lead Gothic, which is the sans serif. It's on the left, it's in red, and on the right, it's in white at the bottom, and it breaks when it gets smaller. So you can just like make gut decisions just looking at it, just intuiting the right decision. Third is have a clear hierarchy. So make more important things bigger and make less important things smaller. This is sort of like fundamentally what we do on the web. If you're a developer, you know what hierarchy is because you work with it every day if you're doing markup. So H1 tags and emphasis and strong, you're already establishing a hierarchy, and it's just making visual decisions that line up with that. So you want to flex your muscle. You want to use the tools at your disposal, like bold, italic, color changes, size changes, that sort of thing. So this is an example of chunking content and establishing hierarchy well. This is a very simple example. So this is a snippet from the website Creative Mornings. It's a series of talks in New York and San Francisco and Zurich and a few other cities. And you can just look at the chunks of content here. And by looking at this, you can see a few of the decisions that are made to sort of establish a hierarchy of importance, to make more important things bubble up and less important things recede back. So the most important stuff is reversed out. The more important bits of information are bigger. They're using a typeface change to make GLE look bigger, right? So it's not rocket science. It's just you need to establish the patterns of this and then make smart, I would say almost logical decisions about how to apply it. The last point is this: if in doubt, read it. This is so common sense, but I have to remind my students this all the time. They're like, is this working? And I say, did you read it? So I think excellent typography comes from an empathy for the reader. This is a website called the Huffington something like that, Huffington something or other. And have you guys ever like gotten through a full article, reading a full article? No.